Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
I'm not a hypocrite. Very obviously.
And good morning and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm having no sound at all on my microphone. There it is. And good morning and welcome. Well, good afternoon.
It's afternoon.
It is afternoon. Yeah, we're used to being on in the morning. I'm Dave Taffet. I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Late Patti Fink is not with us today. Our time slot was just changed. We used to be on right now.
Mm-hmm. Actually, we'd be ending right now.
We would be ending right now.
Yes.
I used to be on right now.
Yes.
Doing polka.
Yes.
But this isn't polka, this is Lambda Weekly.
Lambda Weekly.
The oldest, longest running gay and lesbian radio show on anywhere in the world. We've been with the station for years and years, and every once in a while they move us around.
Right.
But Sunday is where we started, Sunday is where we spent most of our time, and we spent a little bit of time Wednesday morning, we spent some time the Saturday morning talk show block. That kind of got broken up when one of the talk show hosts left on the air.
But we roll with it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're like
and
that.
Patty was going to take off this weekend, whether or not we were on Saturday or Sunday.
Exactly.
She hasn't walked off the air. She's just taken a weekend off.
Actually, I think I kind of like this time slot just a little bit better. I could sleep in a little longer.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Like a whole day and a half longer. Because we were Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, that means I have to get up really early, prepare, and...
We do have 2 extra hours. We were on 11 in the morning. Anyway, so we'll be here 1 o'clock until the next time they move us around a little bit.
Right.
Our guest today is Doug Magditch. He is a reporter with Channel 33, and he does a segment called The Gay Agenda. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you here.
This has to be the first time on Dallas TV that there is anything like The Gay Agenda on a mainstream
You don't have to say
newscast.
it that intimidatingly.
Oh, okay. I like to. The Gay Agenda.
The whole idea behind the name was just to kind of make it so that the phrase "the gay agenda" isn't, something that can be used in a negative way all the time.
Sure, it's just like queer.
Yeah.
Everybody
We're
used that as a
embracing
pejorative. We embraced it. You're calling me queer, who cares?
Yeah.
Calling it the gay agenda, great. Yes, this is the gay agenda.
Yeah, so that's and as far as I know, it's the first time it's been on, there's been an LGBT news show on anywhere in Dallas. I mean, you'd know better than I would, but I feel like it's...
I don't think there's ever been a gay news segment. Do you, Leron?
No. As a matter of fact, no, there has not.
I'm sure there hasn't.
No. Not on TV. No.
I mean, there's been gay news.
Absolutely.
The morning news once a year would do a special section in the paper for National Coming Out Day, which they did for several years, but it was really an advertising section.
Exactly.
But other than mainstream KNON, there just hasn't been in mainstream.
There hasn't.
So, Doug, where are you from originally?
I'm from St. Louis.
And you moved here
and
when?
I worked in a couple different markets after college. I worked as a photographer or videographer. We call them photographers in TV. But in Naples, Florida, my first job out of school, and my boss told me that he would pay me in sunshine, and he wasn't kidding. So I only worked there for about 6 months, and then moved to Springfield, Missouri, which is where I went to school. Worked there for about 6 years, off air and on air as a reporter. And then anyway, I moved here in March of 2011 to work as our Fort Worth reporter at Channel 33. And during that time, we've transitioned from the 33 News to CW 33 News to Nightcap, which is what we turned into last year. And it's a more laid-back sort of newscast. We kind of go for like a younger audience, and it's not as stodgy, I guess, as some of the other stations can get to be. Not that I want to down them or anything, but you know. So anyway, and then I moved to Dallas in December, which when we changed over to the Nightcap format is when I started up the Gay Agenda segment. So I've been here in Dallas for just a little under a year.
Yeah.
And tell us about how that idea even came about for this segment.
So when we switched over to Nightcap, I'd like to say that it was like an altruistic thing. Like the reason I did it was because I want to be a voice for the community or something like that. But really what it was we were looking for new segments, and everybody is just kind of told, you know, do something that interests you or that you have knowledge about. And well, I mean, I'm gay, so I'm interested and have knowledge about that, you know? So anyway, it was like, and there's so many stories, and I feel like it's more, gay news is more mainstream than it used to be, obviously. And there is so much to cover. So that was my idea. I just said, I know that we've got gay people out there watching. Why don't we give them a reason, you know?
So how was, obviously they took the idea and ran with it, but initially were they receptive? Like, okay, that's a great idea, or was there some hesitance?
No, I had one manager that was hesitant, but not because they didn't want to do it. It was more, do you feel like you'll be safe? Or because, you know, we broadcast all over. It's not just Dallas and Fort Worth. We broadcast to very small parts of Texas, and I think that there was some concern that there would be negative backlash.
Right, and actually, you know, we broadcast over a good radius, but actually television with cable, you're really all over the northeast quadrant, really, of Texas, just about on cable.
And the other big difference is they can see his face.
Yeah, right. I have to wear makeup. I don't have to wear makeup, but I do wear makeup. Yeah,
but we're hidden, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, but
as far as the safety issue,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be that hard to find me, I guess. Yeah, if you really wanted to. I mean, it's like in the age of social media, we put so much information out there about ourselves so that people can relate to us. Right. And at the same time, it's like, you know, I put my cell phone on my cards, so it's not that hard to hunt me down.
Right. Okay, so this segment, have you had complaints about it?
No. I haven't gotten any complaints to myself. I know that on our Facebook page for the station, there have been a few people that have said things like, you know, why are you covering, you know, where's the real news? Why spend time on this? But for the most part,
because you spend so much time. I mean, it's what, 4 hours long?
What's that? Yeah, 2 minutes. Yeah.
It's a 2-minute segment.
Right. But that's a lot of time in television. I mean, when you think about advertiser time and things like that. So we have an hour-long newscast. Most stations have a half-hour newscast. Right. And then that's like still only, maybe 20 minutes without, 22 minutes or something like that without commercials. So 2 minutes is a big chunk of news time. But yeah, I know, it's not.
So it's 2 minutes once a week.
Right.
And you tend to cover 3 stories.
Right.
And
it's on Wednesday nights. It's in our Wednesday night newscast, and I generally do go and interview somebody at the Dallas Voice. David Taffet has been on a few times.
I've been on
the
Gay
Agenda.
Yeah.
And that's so I'll do 2 national interest stories, just things that I think are interesting or that people are talking about. It's not always something that's a big story. Sometimes it's just a talker, you know, something that people will find interesting. Right. But I'll do 2 national stories, and then I'll do 1 story that's either local North Texas interest or local Texas interest, just to make it kind of local. And I could do all Texas news, but I think it's more interesting to talk about stories that maybe are being talked about in the mainstream gay media, but not in the mainstream media. And so it brings those stories to people that wouldn't necessarily normally know about them. You know?
Now, prior to you suggesting this idea for a segment, they already knew you were gay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Has that been a situation in all the different markets you've worked in?
I think as gay people, we all know that you have to come out to people constantly. You know.
Yeah, you do.
Like it's not like I'm walking around wearing a rainbow flag. But when I started there, when I started at CW, I asked about partner benefits because at the time I had a partner, and so that was, I mean. Ta-da, you know,
that's coming out.
But
that's
I think
funny. That's
it was never an issue. It was never an issue in Springfield for me either. But I wasn't out on air because in Springfield, I think Springfield, Missouri would have been a different story than it is here.
Well, and being out on air, you know, how do you do that? You're doing it by doing the gay agenda.
Right.
People are assuming, okay, obviously it must be a gay reporter doing the gay agenda. It doesn't have to be. I mean,
Right.
in
No, it
any
doesn't
way,
have to be.
if you're out one week and they want to do the segment, anybody could do it. They have your format. They have your little theme song, your intro, you know, music.
Right.
Anybody could do it.
Not as well though.
That's
No, I'm
true.
kidding.
You know,
No.
somebody could come to Dallas Voice, talk to us, and get
Right.
that.
No, you're right. They could, and I guess being out on air, I think of more like anchors. It's a bigger deal when a news anchor's out on air because they've got a lot more time to talk and you know, banter and talk about their personal life. As a reporter, you don't really want to inject your personal life into your stories. I think I make some quips that, you know, make it very clear that I'm out on air during the gay agenda segment. But other than that, I mean, if I'm ever covering a serious news story, I'm not going to make my personal opinion ever known. And I think that the one reason that I'm allowed to do this at our station is because we are more laid back and we do kind of inject our personalities a little bit into the stories and into the newscast. They wouldn't ever probably be willing to do that at some of the other stations because you don't want to have a reporter that has an agenda, you know.
Right. You know, and that's a difference between, and there really are differences between radio, television, and newspaper. With television, very short segments that you do. Mm-hmm. Radio, Leron, whoever you
What's
are.
your
It's
name
a
again?
different time schedule slot. I don't even know who these people are that I'm in the studio with. Radio, we do something completely different.
Totally different. I mean, we have little segments. Got one coming up. But for the most part, we can banter and go on as long as we want. But it's even different in radio news. You know, their stories are 10, 15 seconds. They're quick also. Mm-hmm. Newspaper?
Well, newspaper, what we do is generally, the rule is a newspaper story should have at least 3 sources. And it depends on the paper. I had a reporter from the morning news say, boy, I'd love the luxury that you have at the Dallas Voice and can really go as in-depth as you do, because our average story is 800 words, and some of our stories can even be 1,200.
Right.
Morning news, an average story is 500-600 words. So they really have to get the news in there, get it in there, make you understand it, and the color and the background is what you lose from such a short story. But you're going to like 4 different people to get different input into whatever that story is. In your 2-minute segment, doing
and
3 stories,
it's even
you can't
quicker
do that.
because since I do 3 stories, it's basically headline, soundbite, comment, soundbite, next story. You know, I mean, it's very, very short. But the idea is to just get people to know stories that they probably wouldn't have otherwise known or looked up or ran into. At least that's the hope that I have. I mean, I would say in my regular stories, my other news stories, I still don't go that in depth because even one story in a minute 30 or whatever is still not that much time. You try to get, and also you want to make the story relatable, so you've got to put some of, you know, one of your characters, the people that you're interviewing, some of their personality in there so that people want to watch it, which is part of the consideration too. So you really do only have a small amount of time to do anything.
So tell us a little bit about the positive feedback you've heard.
Oh, yeah. I should say that, huh? Yeah, it's been actually overwhelmingly positive. I mean, people do in the community seem to really respond to it and respect what I'm doing, what we're doing. And
you can't underplay that. I hope people understand when Knon started this show 30 years ago, that was a major thing for this station to do. Nobody in the country was doing anything like that. Channel 33 doing, even though it's a 2-minute segment, that's a commitment that they're making and saying, no, this is news. and even though it's a lighter format, it's looser format, it's still a commitment, and it's still being treated as if, no, this is news, and that's why we're doing it.
Right. Oh, it's great. I mean, I'm fortunate to be somewhere where they're willing to do that and able to do it, and that they're not shying away from doing something that some people might consider controversial.
Right. I mean, and your stories really, they're not controversial. The story itself might be, but that's what makes news.
Right. Oh, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to inject much of myself into it because then it's unfair to the story. But at the same time, I mean, since it's so short, I don't really have time for that anyway.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it is nice that we spend so much time in production and making stuff look good so that at the same time, like, people may want to watch just because it looks interesting,
well,
and it's fast paced.
And that's another difference. TV has to be slick.
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be. I mean,
It isn't always, but we
That's
try
where
to
the
be.
makeup comes
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
Radio, we sit down at the microphone, we plan ahead of time, we take time to plan who the guests are going to be, we get here ahead of time so we can talk about what we're going to talk about, but there's no editing once we're on the air.
No.
And
it's live.
we leave very often, and Patti says to me, when you said, you really shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, you can't edit that out.
But there's
I
nothing.
edit a lot of stuff out in my segments because it has to be so tight.
Well, even this week, I'm talking and talking. Oh, no, let me start that again.
Right.
And I'm talking and talking. No, that.
Right.
But you can do that because you're going to go back to the studio and edit. Newspaper also, when you're a weekly like Dallas Voices, I have the luxury of being able to start writing on Monday, go back and edit on Tuesday, give it to my editor on Wednesday, and do final edits on Thursday, and put in, if it's a developing story, put in new information. So we really can work on it. Daily newspaper has to be quicker, but still, one person writes it, then it goes to an editor, then it goes to a copy editor, and you massage it. Radio, what we're usually doing, though, is just in-depth, one person. Usually we have one guest or two people talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
and we'll just do an hour just from that one person's point of view.
We need to go to break, but when we come back, I want to talk a little about, or if you could talk a little bit about preparation of the show. Do you have to get clearance of what you're going to talk about for the segment?
Okay. And we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
Hi, this is Candy Markham, and I listen to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. Listen.
And I'm David Taffet, and I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis, and the late Patti Fink will be back with us next week. Our guest is Doug Magditch. He's a reporter with CW33 here in Dallas, and we're talking about his segment, The Gay Agenda.
And just talking about the differences, how we prepare for TV, radio, and newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And with your segment, we did mention some issues, or some of the news stories, the gay news stories, are pretty controversial. Do you have to get pre-approval for what you're going to put in your segment, or are you just going to go with it?
I think there have been maybe 1 or 2 days where I've done a story, or I wanted to do a story that they didn't want to do, but it was never because it was controversial. It was because we'd already covered it the day before.
Gotcha.
So I've never had any issues. I mean, I do send my stories to my editors, producers, I guess. We've been talking paper and I get confused about producers, and just to let them know what I'm going to be covering. And I just try to steer clear of something that's going to be something that you really need to go in depth on to fairly cover the story. So I think that's where the controversy issues would probably come into play. So I'll do stuff that I can cover quickly, at least
Gotcha.
mention, what the sides of the story are and what the story is, and that sort of thing.
Because one of the benefits of doing the radio shows, we can pretty much have anyone on we want, but there are some stories, or I should say guests, that we have decided to pass on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to offend any story or anyone or any group, but sometimes it just didn't really. It's kind of boring. But
it's not some topic that we think we can do for an hour.
Exactly. But some stories that we will mention, I would think would be great for TV because it's a great visual, like anything that has to do with West Baptist, the West Baptist Church,
Westboro. Yeah.
Westboro. I mean, they.
Great signs.
They're great signs. They're entertaining.
Yeah, I guess if it's something you can laugh about,
Yeah,
that's a different story.
Of course.
We actually, different at every station I've worked at, but at our station, in the past few months, we've had a standing agreement not to cover the Westboro Baptist Church because we don't want to give them coverage because it's so
actually
hate-filled.
a great idea.
But I mean, that's what they're looking for is coverage.
Yeah.
They want people to get upset. And so we will, I mean, I've been at stations where we do cover them, and we've covered them at our station too.
Speaking of people who wanted coverage, one of the stories that you did this week, but you did it the right way because you laughed him off, is the story about how Girl Scouts, joining the Girl Scouts causes your daughter to become a lesbian.
That's right. Watch out for those Thin Mints.
Talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit.
so the story was there's a pastor in, I don't even know where he's from.
Oklahoma, you would
It was
assume?
a radio show. He was talking about it on his radio show and said that because the Girl Scouts have never banned gay members or leaders, that they promote lesbianism and abortion and Planned Parenthood and that sort of thing. So he's calling for a boycott of Girl Scout cookies because he says that they'll turn your daughter into a lesbian, or because the organization promotes lesbianism, your daughter may become a lesbian. So, yeah, so we did kind of laugh about it a little bit.
You know, and there's a way to cover it and way to cover it. We're first of all not mentioning his name. Don't even remember where he's from. I'm assuming Oklahoma,
And
just
at this
because
point, we don't
I know
even
good
care.
people from Oklahoma. I really shouldn't, you know. But we'll assume that type. But we're not mentioning his name and not bothering even to look it up because who cares?
Right.
Why give him the publicity? But you're mentioning it, and we're mentioning it in terms of. That's so stupid.
Right. Can you believe that somebody would say that?
It would be so
Yeah.
stupid to say this kind of thing.
Right.
It's ludicrous.
You know, one thing that we do, and we've had several guests on who've been on another station first. Like there's a talk show on the other nonprofit radio station. We've had some guests who've been in town. They'll be on that show like on Friday afternoon, then over the weekend come on ours. And the guests have pointed this out. On that show, you're starting at this level down here and bringing the listener up to a certain level. And our show tends to start where that show left off. Because we're assuming that our listeners, gay or straight, have been with us for a while and have a certain understanding about the LGBT community. In the Dallas Voice, while we don't assume that everybody knows what HRC is, you know, in an article, the first time we mention it, we call it the Human Rights Campaign, standard AP style.
Right.
But we do assume that they have some level of understanding with the gay community. On TV, you have such a broad audience.
Right.
Where are you in that?
I try to keep it very low level first, just because, I mean, I'm assuming that the majority of the people watching our station are not watching just for my segment. I mean, as great as that would be, I don't think that that's the case. So I do try to keep it so that I'm explaining every, you know, the simplest parts of the story, the basic parts of the story. And then I figure if you're interested in it, you're going to go find out more about it. So yeah, I would say I'm more like the other nonprofit radio station you're talking about.
Now, one thing that we do on an irregular basis at Dallas Voice, and then we'll do it here in the studio, is This Week in Marriage Equality. You picked up on one of those stories this week.
Yes, the Oklahoma one.
The Oklahoma marriage case.
Right.
Which is fascinating.
It was, yes. I mean, do you want to talk about it?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so
You start.
So there was a couple in Oklahoma that wanted to get married, gay couple, 2 men, and they applied for a marriage license through one of the
Arapahoe.
tribal courts.
Yeah. Through
through
at
a
the
tribal
county
court.
courthouse.
Right, and because they don't follow state law there, they follow federal law on tribal lands. They were able to get a marriage license. So it became a big story nationally because it's basically everybody saying, look at this super smart Oklahoma couple that found a loophole in the law and were able to get married, even though Oklahoma does not support gay marriage.
Yeah.
But I loved how they approached it. They called and they say, sure, come on down. It was very nonchalant.
And it turns out, and this didn't come out till later in the week, it's not the first time. It was the Arapahoe Cheyenne Reservation that this took place on, which is northwest of Oklahoma City. They had issued a same-sex marriage license last December to a couple. This one just made the news.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Well, this couple had applied for a license before, though, right? At least that's what I'd read. Is that they had before?
Sure.
I'm probably
sure.
it would have been before that. But from what I'd read, they'd applied before and were denied. And the story, as it was told this week, was that after DOMA, they decided to follow federal law. It's really interesting that they would issue one before the Supreme Court ruling on Defense of Marriage Act.
And again, I know nothing about that other couple because that couple is not getting into the news. They're staying out of it altogether, so we don't have names, nothing. This couple, it's just fascinating. And again, the coverage I find interesting. You didn't put it this way, although you talked about it, how others are covering it. We would never cover it that way here, that they found a loophole. It wasn't a loophole. Reservations have their own tribal law.
Right.
They are allowed to self-govern in the same way a state self-governs. I mean, they can't declare war. They can't do other things that the federal government does, but they can do things that are similar to state governments. Reservations can have gambling, even if the state doesn't have gambling. That's why the closest gambling casinos to us are in Oklahoma on reservations. They can do those kinds of. They can issue marriage licenses, and what marriage licenses you issue is up to the tribe. Right. And if you have reservations in your state, which Texas doesn't, so we're not as used to that here, but if you have reservations in your state, parts of your state constitution covers, parts of your state it doesn't. And it's not a loophole.
Right. And they lived on tribal land, right?
Yeah, and what that reservation said was, we will marry a couple who is of tribal ancestry and is under our jurisdiction, meaning lives somewhere within the reservation.
One or the other?
Both.
Both. Both. Okay.
Both people have to. You couldn't marry somebody from that reservation. Two people from the reservation can marry each other.
Gotcha.
So people under their jurisdiction. So they're not going out of their way to skirt Oklahoma law. They're not trying to go around anything. They're just saying these people under our jurisdiction, we can issue it.
Right.
And they can. And it's legal. Yes. And there's a same-sex marriage in Oklahoma. I love that.
Which kind of saddens me. They beat Texas.
Well, yeah, but it's not like anybody can go and get married in Oklahoma.
That's
so
true. That's true.
If we had some tribal land here too, we probably could boast the same thing.
That's true. An awful lot, though.
But whenever
a lot of the state is covered.
Whenever Oklahoma beats us in anything, it's just like, oh God.
Had a gay state senator before we did too.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Well, while we're doing this week in marriage equality, New Jersey came state 14.
State number 14. And their Governor Christie, has decided to drop the appeal because he was going to take it all the way to the New Jersey Supreme Court, and they were still going to hear the arguments, which were coming up in January, I believe. But now he's dropped the appeal. I don't know. Right before then, there was an interview where he talked about. He was asked if one of his children came out gay, what would he do? And he gave a decent answer. He said, he would hug them and tell them that he loved them, but that, he still believes marriage is between one man and one woman. And so I throw it back to David because we often debate about this. You still think he doesn't care?
I still think he doesn't care. I think he's running for president on the Republican side, and he can't come out, he thinks, and just say, I'm for marriage equality.
That's too moderate?
It's too moderate for where they are right now.
Yeah. Okay. See, I think he does care.
I'm going to stay out of that one.
Oh, okay. I just don't think he particularly cares. One of the things he said was, I'd be okay with it if we put it before the voters. He's not giving this argument that, the sky is going to fall and tornadoes happen because gay people get married.
No, he's not being that extreme about his opinion about it, but something that you just don't care about, you eventually just kind of leave it alone.
And that's what he just did.
But look what it took. It had to go all the way to that state Supreme Court to say, no, they're going to get married.
Yeah, and he did veto it.
He finally said, and he has vetoed it,
He
exactly.
did veto it once before. So, yeah, I'm not calling him an ally.
I know you're not.
I'm saying I think he just doesn't really care and doesn't want it to look like it passed with his help.
Well, and it's funny because even though he pushed it as far as he could, when he dropped the appeal,
They went after him.
They went after him and told him he's not going far enough. So I'll give you a little on that point that, he just doesn't want to appear so moderate because the extremists, they're going to go as far as they can go.
Okay, so the New Mexico Supreme Court, it's the state Supreme Court, this week they heard the marriage appeal. Mm-hmm. Not appeal, but it was actually, they heard a lawsuit.
Right.
The county clerks brought a case to the Supreme Court because they thought, there are 8 counties out of 33 in New Mexico where you can get married now. 3 of them were because the county clerks, starting with this one, I love Lynn Ellens. He is, he's an older guy, and the quote from him is, well, I don't say why I couldn't do it. And that's what started it.
Right.
I love what's happening in New Mexico.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting. You've got the federal government that says leave it to the states to decide, and now you've got a state where it's like it's almost like they're leaving it to the counties to decide.
Right. Well, I think we should give a little background as far as talking about where our listeners are. For those who don't know, part of the problem, but part of the issue, the big issue in New Mexico is it doesn't stay. It doesn't say what defines marriage. It's a gender-neutral law. And so I think legally they can allow same-sex couples to get married.
And to be fair, that law is like 100 years old.
It is.
And so they probably just wrote it as marriage because 100 years ago nobody was even thinking in terms of same-sex marriage, but it's the only state where gender is not specified.
It's not specified.
Okay, so the Supreme Court justices, 5 justices heard it, and 3 of them were asking questions like, why should it make a difference? Shouldn't somebody be able to marry who they want? Because this is a Supreme Court where the justices ask the attorneys questions. Another one said, when one of the attorneys pointed out that marriage, the state interest is for procreation, one of the attorneys said, well, that's never been a requirement for marriage.
Never.
And doesn't marriage have, the quote is, many other benefits? And he said having children was never a requirement. But 3 of them were asking questions like that, which means at least 3 of the 5 seem to have gotten it.
Well, you never know what a Supreme Court is going to do,
Sure.
unless your name is Anthony Scalia. Other than that, you never know what they're going to do. But I would be really, really shocked if they didn't rule in our favor in this case.
I would
How
too.
soon is the ruling supposed to come down on that?
No time limit.
Oh,
No
okay.
time limit, but I suspect probably before the end of the year.
The county clerks were asking basically for a ruling because there are 8 counties where you can get married, and it's a patchwork. One of them is the northeast corner, one up in the northwest corner, one all the way down south, one southwest, and the other's in the middle. And so you're going back and forth. Yeah, I can get married here. No, can't get married there. Yeah, I can get married here. And it just didn't make sense. It was also interesting. It's patchwork is how this got legalized. 3 of the counties were just the county clerks who said, yeah, well, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it too. And the others were court cases where somebody said, the first court case was, my partner is dying and we want to be married, and her case was not that they be married, but that on the death certificate it shows that they had gotten married in Santa Fe and they wanted the death certificate in Albuquerque to reflect that they were spouses. And the judge in Albuquerque said, not only will she be listed as your spouse, but the county clerk is instructed to start issuing marriage licenses. So this is how it's real patchwork there.
This is why they need the Supreme Court case.
Yeah, they do. They need to
Either
say
way.
one way or the other.
And some of the counties, why only 8 out of 33? In some of the counties, they're sparsely populated, and nobody has gone to the county clerk's office to even ask for a marriage license.
Right.
So, Hawaii.
Hawaii.
The place that started marriage equality back in 1993.
Yeah, it's 93.
Yeah, they have a special session this coming week to consider a marriage equality bill. So we'll see whether it works or not.
We'll see.
So, amazing what's going on with...
So by the end of the year, we could be up to 16 states.
We could be.
Could be.
And Illinois. Actually, that bill
Right,
is stalled in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pennsylvania.
I forgot that there's a pending court case.
There's a pending court case in Pennsylvania and Michigan. Although that won't happen, there's a pending court case. They're going to hear it in February.
Okay. All right. I'm not up to date.
To make their current anti-gay law unconstitutional.
And I think I read that there's been a lawsuit filed in Tennessee.
There has been.
Yeah.
Yeah, full
That's
place.
another one I'm gonna. If Tennessee passes marriage equality before Texas does, I'm gonna cry.
That would be kind of.
I mean, really, Tennessee?
Yeah. No.
We can do better than that.
Yeah, not this year.
Yeah.
Not this year. We have just a couple of minutes. But I mean, this has just been fascinating. What's going on in marriage, but it's. Again, we're talking about the difference in coverage between newspaper, radio, and here we can just sit and discuss it and laugh about the different things. In the newspaper have to be tight, but I can include all of them. On the air, Doug, you included Oklahoma.
Blurb, yeah.
Blurb, Oklahoma.
But the thing is, I don't want to get too involved into it. I don't want to start saying this is what I think about this. This is what I just want to inform people about it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I may laugh about it here and there, but for the most part, I try to not get my opinion out there too much. That's why I've kind of remained a little silent while we're talking about this too. It's just because I don't want to get myself into trouble.
Right.
As a television reporter, it's tough to report on something when somebody thinks that you've got a preconceived notion about something.
Right.
Well, and what's interesting though is when it comes right down to it, the impact. You actually might have more impact than we will. We have a targeted audience, and we know that. We have good ratings on this show, but it is still a fairly targeted audience. Mostly people who listen to us are with us, and then we have that other segment of the audience who listens to us because they like how angry I get them.
You're doing something right.
I am.
You're getting people motivated.
But you're doing something right too, by getting the information out there.
Right.
And
because you're hitting people who weren't going to hear this at all.
Right.
And now they know, a gay couple got married in Oklahoma, the sky is falling.
Right. Yeah, and find out how that happened and why it happened, and then you learn about, federal law and tribal law and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure.
You're listening to Lambda Weekly. We need to take a break. I'm Dave Taffet. I am in the studio with Lerone Landis. Late Patti Fink will be back with us next week. Doug Magditch from Channel 33 News is our guest. And we'll be back with more right after this.
This is Raphael McDonald from Resource Center Dallas. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Doug Magditch, our guest, and Lerone Landis with the Entertainment Report.
Be sure and tune in to OWN tonight. Oprah's going to present a special night of programming focusing on the conversation about being gay in America. Now, one of the first thing is going to be a full hour. We're just going to talk with some openly gay celebrities. Wanda Sykes, Modern Family star Jesse Tyler Ferguson, and Scandal star Dan Bukanteski. Now, after that, it's going to be the premiere of the documentary film Bridegroom. Now, some of us already know about this. This came out a couple of years ago. This couple who were never married, but were obviously, together. One of the guys fell off of a building by accident while he was taking some pictures. And the surviving partner was told not to come to the funeral, stay away. It was just this really, really sad thing. Anyway, he made a video of it, and it went viral. It was all over the internet for a couple of years ago. Anyway, now it's been turned into a full-length documentary. So
I saw the trailer for that. It looks really
looks
good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So,
and I just wanted to mention for this.
Please.
I saw that it's going to be on OWN, which I don't have cable because I'm cheap. But I do have Netflix. It's going to be on Netflix too.
And you're
starting tonight.
And you're on broadcast TV.
Right, I know.
You don't need cable.
I have all the important networks without cable.
There you go. Well, yeah, I have Netflix too. I didn't know it was going to be on there. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. Now, this is something David was probably been waiting for. Actor Sean Hayes' new sitcom is not only struggling with critics. They're saying that the show just isn't that funny. It's sagging big time in the ratings. Now, in a recent interview,
have you seen it?
I've seen maybe 10 minutes of it and didn't laugh once.
Because it was, I saw, I think 2 episodes of it.
Oh, so you have seen it? Okay.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah,
it's funny. It's not terrible. I mean, I think it's kind of funny.
Well,
You're not a fan.
Yeah, I'm not a big
I mean,
fan
I'm not
of it.
surprised to see that the ratings
He's
are
not
good.
a fan of Sean Hayes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's why I said this is for him. Now, in a recent interview, Sean said that he thinks the show is great and he wouldn't change anything about it. Okay, whatever.
He also
said, that this is the part for David. He says that he feels like he's always felt like he's owed the gay community a huge apology for coming out too late. People in the gay community were very upset with me for not coming out on their own terms. They don't stop to think about what's going on in somebody's personal life and the struggles that they are having.
That's fair.
I thought it was fair too.
I mean, why should you be a figurehead if you don't want to be a figurehead, right?
I think it would, because he made himself more news by this flaming queen character who the person behind it is saying, well, I never said I was gay, and he's not coming out. Had he just come out the first year of Will and Grace, especially once the show is a hit, it would have been less news, because every time he denied being gay,
or he just wouldn't say it.
Or wouldn't say, it made news again.
It did make news. Interesting thing I thought about Sean Hayes not coming out is that I thought he already was out. Before Will and Grace, he had a semi-indie film hit called Billy's Hollywood Kiss. Definitely a gay film. He did press for it. He was openly about it. But then he went back into the closet. Well, and he talks about that.
And the character was exactly Jack McFarland.
It was.
It's pretty much what it is on his show this time, too. Yeah,
pretty much.
And he thinks he loves this new show because the character's nothing like Jack.
Oh,
really?
No.
Well,
it's toned down a little bit, but it's still the same. Yeah. So,
and that's what he does. And people find him funny, even so. But
you know,
it is the same character.
if
That's
Danny
his thing.
Bucatinsky from Scandal didn't want to come out, I get that. It has nothing to do with what he's doing on the air. I've never seen Scandal. Does he play gay on that? I don't think so. Does he or does he? I don't know.
Well, there is a major gay character on Scandal.
Oh, well, it has to be him.
I think
okay.
Him, yeah.
But if it wasn't, it doesn't matter if he comes out. But when Jack, who's the big flaming queen, on the first show that centers on a gay character, isn't coming out.
I honestly thought the same thing that you said, is that he had already come out of the closet.
Well,
I didn't realize that.
He kind of was, but he went back in. He said he was only 26 or 27 years old when Will and Grace came out. He just said he was just really overwhelmed with the response.
And I get that.
And he wasn't prepared for this huge success, and he had this burden on his shoulder from the gay community, so he just went back into the closet. So, I mean, I cut him a little slack.
I wonder how much of that was his publicist, too. I mean, you know.
Could be.
He may have wanted to come out and was told that he shouldn't because
it'll
it would
hurt
be
his
bad for
career.
Right. Because also Eric
But
McCormack.
when you're playing that character.
But because on the other flip side is Eric McCormack, who played Will, who's straight. He never let you forget that he was actually straight.
Right.
He every interview,
every press conference that man did. Hi, I'm Eric McCormack, and this is my wife.
Exactly. I'm straight. I'm pretending. All right. And last, in some sports news, Paris, France has been chosen for the 2018 Gay Games. I know this is like 2-week-old news, but we haven't gotten to it. And one of the other contenders was Cleveland, Ohio. And for those who don't know, getting the Gay Olympics, not the Olympics, but the Gay Olympics, that's a cash cow. They're saying that, this could bring potentially $60 million to that city. How does Cleveland, Ohio get something that Dallas can't get? I've been to Cleveland. I'm just baffled.
Instead of Sochi.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it's obvious they had to go somewhere else.
They did. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah.
And we think we're so the hot this and that here in Dallas, but we can't even get the Gay Olympics over Cleveland.
Neither did Cleveland, though, right?
No, they did.
Cleveland has this coming summer.
That
one's Paris is the one after that.
2018. Yeah, they did get it. Yeah.
Well, Paris has a gay mayor.
They do. Well, and Paris is probably triple the size of Dallas.
But Houston didn't get it either.
No.
They have a gay mayor.
They do.
Which most people forget. I mean, because she's...
Yeah, at some point it's not an issue anymore.
I did a story on that election this week, and I asked several people, whether her sexual orientation is even coming up in this election. And it's a real funny election because the commercials are just filthy. Her main opponent is somebody who hasn't paid his property taxes on time in years. Oh, so he's touting the fact that he's paid over $100,000 in penalties and interest as a benefit and a reason you should vote for him, because look at all this extra money I've given the city.
There's a way to tell every story, isn't there?
As people who are on the air doing radio, as people who are journalists, you can spin a story any way you want, but that's masterful.
That's pretty impressive.
That is.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, I mean, he's got a point.
Yeah.
He does. The city of Houston would be, and I'm saying 100, it was more like $150,000.
Wow.
$150,000 richer because of this man. And when he was asked about why he didn't pay his taxes on time, he said, "It's just the way I deal with it. Everybody hates taxes."
Interesting.
That's going to be a fiscally responsible government if he's mayor.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she has anything to worry about. Now, if she wins, this will be, she's seeking her last term, right?
Yeah. I asked several people, has sexual orientation come into play in that election? And they all said, I think people know she's a lesbian.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't an issue before, it's not going to be.
3 times on citywide on the city council, 3 times as comptroller, 3rd time as mayor. This is her 9th citywide election. It's just not coming up as an issue anymore.
Not an issue.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about, again, as far as we know, this is the first gay broadcast segment here in Dallas-Fort Worth. But I don't think you're the first gay reporter we've had.
No, you want
we've
me
had
to
a
out
number
people?
of them. Yeah, would you like to?
There are plenty of gay people that have been and are in news in Dallas. Yes.
Yeah, there are.
And I don't actually know who's out and who isn't, so I'm certainly not going to talk about them.
No, we don't need to mention any names. But I've just, I've always been curious, are reporters or even anchors reluctant to have that revealed?
I think, it's probably different for each person. Mm-hmm. For me, it's what I'm doing this gay segment, so for me, it makes sense, and I've never really been shy about it. I was never, like I said before, out on air in my last market in Springfield, Missouri. I think it just depends on the person. And also television reporters and anchors have agents too, and that may be a conversation that they have with their agent, whether it's good for their career long term.
Right.
So frankly, I don't know. I can just talk about my own personal experience, and for me, it was never an issue here.
Since very few people have done this nationally, because very few stations would support a segment like that, even on an irregular basis. But few stations would support that. First of all, have you ever had that conversation with your agent?
I actually don't have an agent, so.
Oh.
I didn't have to have that conversation.
I see.
No, I've gotten all my jobs without an agent.
Oh, okay.
Sweet. Good for you.
Well,
seriously.
Thank you. But no, I had an agent for a short time, and it just didn't work out. So we parted ways, and so I've never had to worry about that sort of thing. So I make my own decisions in that regard.
Well, do you
Best
think?
way to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have a unique something. Look at me because I've done such and such. Could this actually work in your favor?
Well, that is part of the way I've kind of decided to brand myself. The way television news has changed so much in just the 10 years I've been in TV news. I think it's better to have something that you're known for because it makes you valuable to your employers, hopefully. Fingers crossed on that one. But that's the idea, is I've kind of decided to brand myself as a gay news reporter, as somebody who is quote unquote an expert, in a certain.
And of course, you can't just do this segment. You have to, once given the segment, you have to do it well.
Right. Well,
otherwise it would have been canceled in 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's been received well. We'll see. It's been a year, so that's a long time for anything. I do,
especially in news.
I do a lot of other gay news stories as well, day of stories, and then if there's some big event going on, I'm going to be the reporter at our station that covers it. And then also I'm working on a story right now on the issues here in Dallas, here in DFW, for gay homeless youth, and the struggles that they face specifically. Talked to two, a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old, who one was kicked out of his home, and the other one was left his foster home voluntarily for reasons, But the first one, he came out to he's transgendered, came out as a lesbian first, and his family was okay with it, and then came out as transgendered and was kicked out of his house at 1:00 in the morning because his dad just couldn't deal with it, supposedly, and was homeless for 3 years, I think, and went through all of the different social services organizations. Said that even the ones that are accepting and open to LGBT youth struggled. He struggled with him because he's trans. He's said that it was more accepting for gay and lesbian youth than trans youth, and had some very specific issues just because of that. And so anyway, it's really an interesting topic, and it's a story that I've spent some time on, and it's a story that I think I wouldn't have found out about or met the right people to talk to about it if not for the Gay Agenda. So I mean, I do some more in-depth stuff. It's just not as often. It's not weekly.
Yeah, I'm surprised though that you're the only one who covers any other event that's in the gay community.
Well, I'm going to be the go-to. I mean, if there's something that's going on, I'm going to be the one that they're going to want to send to first, because that's kind of my beat, But no, there are other reporters that cover other stories that affect the gay community. It's just that I'm going to be probably the first one to pitch a story that affects the gay community.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the first one aware of a lot of the events that are going on, things like that. So.
And that's an interesting point. Having a smaller staff, which is one of the reasons that your station came up with this format for the news, the reporters do the pitching rather than having assignments editors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have one assignments editor, and he focuses more on what's going on that day and making sure there's somebody to go shoot. If there's breaking news, go shoot it. But for the most part, we come up with our stories and pitch them, and then the producers will say whether or not they want to do that or whatever. Yeah, I get assigned a story about once a week, but most of the time it's a story that I've pitched that I end up doing. So I do end up pitching a lot of stuff that's LGBT related.
One of the things you covered this week was a judge in San Antonio who left the GOP.
Right.
It was kind of an interesting story, and it was a little bit different than some of the other people who switch parties.
Right. Yeah, it said specifically, I mean, he's campaigning for 2014, so that's part of the reason why he wants to make news right now. But he posted a campaign video for 2014 on YouTube, and in it explained that the reason that he's running as a Democrat instead of a Republican is because of the way San Antonio kind of blew up when they were discussing adding LGBT to their non-discrimination policy for the city. It's really controversial. I'm sure you guys talked about it here too. Yeah. Oh yeah. And so he said the reaction to that by a lot of the conservatives in San Antonio is a big part of the reason why he feels like the Republican Party left him, that he didn't leave the Republican Party. The party left him. He talked about how one of the city council members there made national news for saying that gays are disgusting.
Among other things, she said.
Right. And one of the things that he said in his video is, it's shocking to me that somebody would come out with hate-filled speech and then use that as a catapult to get them to run for higher office, which is what she's doing.
And it was interesting because when she first announced she was leaving city council, that's what came out first, and everybody went, yay! And of course you didn't say that, you're just covering it, but in my office, yay, we're rid of her. And then 5 minutes later, that was an announcement that she's running for the legislature. Just what we need in the legislature. Not that she has a good chance, because
I don't know what her district is
well,
like.
it's a small council district that covers a bigger legislative, or that's inside a bigger legislative district, with council people from those areas who voted for the ordinance.
So you think the chances of her not winning
in a Democratic city like San Antonio,
that's good.
Not real good, and hopefully that's the end of her career. Goodbye, good riddance to.
Let's hope
to garbage.
We
from
said
me,
it.
not from Doug.
We said it, not Doug.
No, but it is interesting to see that, that's something that because she got national headlines, she got all this attention, then she felt like it was her time to go and run for higher office.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Right.
Only in Texas.
We need to wrap this up. One thing you didn't mention in your entertainment report.
That's right.
Mrs. Krabappel died.
She did.
Doug,
I'm sorry,
Doug,
I wanted you to mention it just because I was a huge Simpsons fan, and just last night when I found out about that, I went on YouTube and watched a montage of all her ha. I can't do it. She can do it a lot better. I won't be filling in for Edna Krabappel. But
you could.
Anyway, it's devastating.
Actually,
I'm going to have to go find that.
Yeah, it's...
Post a link on your Facebook.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
No problem.
But that brings us to the end of another Lambda Weekly. Next week we have Candy Markham, who always is here to... It's my quarterly counseling session.
It must be Pledge Drive.
It is Pledge Drive next week. And for all of us here at Lambda Weekly, have a good week.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.